Here's my first thing. I came all this way and I went through that customs yesterday, and I know it's about baseball, and this will allow me to get to some drills. I told guys if you're making a business decision, I am left-handed, so if my back's to you a lot on this side, I apologize up front. And the other thing I picked up last night is you guys, man, y'all are working with some younger guys. You are. Some of these things, I've talked to a lot of college coaches. I have no expertise at 12, 13, 14, except I'm not very good with them in camp, and I try to stay away from them. Because you just want to be an expertise at whatever age group that you're used to working with. But between the ages of when I was probably 11, 12, 13, 14, I thought my name was Ofer. Because that's what my father, he called me, especially on those days when I went 0 for 2, 0 for 3, 0 for 4. My nickname was Ofer. So if we get nothing out of this and we do settle our lunch and you go to sleep, I lost my dad. This was my first Christmas without my dad in my life. So I lost him on July the 8th. And I was talking to him, I guess 3 or 4 years ago, and I was at Mississippi State, the pitching coach, and I'm like, I went to see him in his nursing home, and I'm like, hey, them boys at Auburn, they're crazy enough. I think they're going to give me the head baseball job. And I said, do I have your blessing? Because I have my wife, Robin, and I have 3 daughters that I affectionately call strike 1, strike 2, and strike 3. All right? But Mississippi State was home for me, so that's 30, 40 minutes there, and he's not in great shape. And do I have his blessing to go 4 hours off to another job? Something that, hey, he called me Ofer, but that dude posted every day. That dude threw that ball till I was tired, not till he was tired. And he would work the shift work for 12 hours, and he would post for that game. He would try to knock off. One of his boys would take him for 30 minutes, and he would show up at my ballpark until I heard his old sloppy truck with the big pipes that was really loud pulling that parking lot because it was such a small town, such a small field. I knew when he was at the park. So he's like, man, that's a blessing. You're going to get your ass kicked because everybody in the SEC is good. All that kind of stuff. Let me go back 35 years earlier. Man, I'd have some good days. Left-hander. Sometimes people just don't want to hit lefties on a given day. I'd have a good day, or if I closed my eyes and the ball hit the bat just right, it would go pretty good. On those days, we would go downtown, Amory, Mississippi, and we had a little Dairy Cream. Not like the chain of ice cream, more like Joe and Phyllis's little place where they painted Dairy Cream with their hands and paint. And we'd pull in there, and he's like, whatever you want, you can get. And I would always get the banana split because that was the most bang for your buck. You could put everything on there. You get all the ice cream. You could do all that. But those Ofer days, that son of a gun would take me to the same place, the same Dairy Cream, and he would pull in there. And he would go the speed in his truck where his foot's not on the gas or the brake, this speed about right here. And he would go, hey, boy, look in there. I bet you'd like to have some of that ice cream, wouldn't you? Ofer. And it had glasses down both sides of the restaurant, so he'd say, look in there. And the other side had glass as well, so he'd go down this side, go around the back, come down this side, and then we would exit, and we would go home, and we'd practice a little bit more to try to get better. And so when he said, fast forward back to 2015, October the 20th, I know the day, he said, man, you take them down there, you're going to get your butt handed to you, but you go get them, and you take those girls. It's a blessing. We spent too much time in that backyard for you to not to take this opportunity and go for it. Give him a big hug. I'm walking to the door. I'm about to leave, crying just a little bit. And he said, hey. And I turned around and I go, yes, sir. And he said, I'm sorry. I said, what you sorry for? He said, I'm sorry for Dairy Cream. I'm sorry for Dairy Cream. And I want you to do this. This is your blessing. This may be my last blessing I ever give you. You love them. You love your players with all your heart. You do the best you can. I screwed up Dairy Cream. But I got you to pass that on. And your blessing is not to worry about Twitter. Your blessing is not to worry about if some donor don't like you, your blessing is if you just love those people, your win. So the dude that called me over and wouldn't let me have the ice cream gave me the best blessing that I've been able to have as a head coach in the Southeastern Conference, is to just love them, just simply love them. And before I get into some of these drills, it's just a good check for every one of us to make sure this game is hard. The game of baseball is hard. It's tough. Our best hitters are failing 7 out of 10 times in our lineup this year. Our best guys. But, man, y'all are doing this in the cold. You're stuck inside for months and months and months. You are difference makers or you wouldn't be right here. I'm here to get better. I'm here because I knew I'd be coming with people that's playing a game in a region where it's tougher. It's more of a challenge. So, yeah, I come to Toronto because I know there's good men that are loving these kids, and it's a good reminder. This game's hard, and at the end of the day, when you count them, you don't count your championships or the rings that are in a drawer that you never wear. You're going to count it, did I love them good? Because I believe, I'm weird, I think we're all going to stand in front of our Maker someday and have to answer that question, did you love your people? Last night I mentioned teach what you know. I want to take that a step further of like, I've done the 40 drill DVD deal. We got a team thing coming out on Championship Productions in March of all of our team drills of our great staff that we have. We're trying to get to autopilot, so I don't try to give everybody 40 drills. If somebody's got a tummy ache, I try to give them Pepto-Bismol. If you got a headache, don't give them Pepto-Bismol. What you're trying to do is match drills to a player, and it may only be one. If you get somebody doing 40 drills, I promise they don't need 40 drills. They need the right prescription. Just another way to look at it. They need the right prescription for what ails them. And if you find that, now your dominoes fall. You keep them to one. Hey, and you might have to go through 10 to find the one. I got it. But if you're a coach and you got experience and you've had these boys with some of the same problems before, find the prescription and give them the one thing. They don't have to work hard to have 40 drills. It's the work smart concept, work efficient. I wanted to mention that too. Here's my marquee drill. If you were listening last night, the one thing that I said that I wanted guys to be able to do, first initial skill for an Auburn pitcher is wherever the height level of their stuff is, I wanted to lower their arsenal. Wherever that average range of height that their stuff presents in TrackMan, all these smart people can tell you this. I just want to lower their stuff. Okay? The second thing I want them to do that pitchers do poorly when they come to us usually is they don't hold the baseball well, the balk. They just catch and want to get it out, and they call balks. So I got the string in play. I want them to be able to hold the baseball. And the third component to this first marquee drill in our program is the catcher will give a glove flash. So we got 3 things happening. And I think it's one of the best drills that we do. And again, I want to be simple. But I'll get them on the mound. We'll come set, and we'll just hold the ball. Breathe is another concept that's good to do. You know, it's the comfortable being uncomfortable. They hate this drill initially because I might just make them stand here and be posted. I want the back spike in the ground because I don't want anybody coming up on their toe. We're going this way. I don't want any energy out over our skis. So I'm right here, and he's got to wait till he gets glove flash out of the catcher before he throws the ball at the string. So we're getting a break time. We are using a stopwatch for this. We're getting his ability to hold the baseball. Whenever in a game, we don't yell like, hey, hold the ball, come set better, or they're going to call a balk. All right? We yell breathe. Breathe is our code word for come to a better set position, a discernible stop, and hold the baseball. And this is our marquee drill. I'm telling you, I got a kid who just turned down about $1.5 million, came to school. I was so happy. Big left-hander, he's beautiful. There's not 5 other of him in college baseball at his age. Just don't make them. 93, 94, wipeout slider. Love to have him. If he can throw enough strikes, he's going to make me real smart coach. but he's 1-8 to the plate. He's slow. So now he's starting to throw bullpens and pitches for us. So that's 50 pitches, and it turns into 100 pitches. And before you know it, you get through a month, 2 months. This guy's thrown hundreds of pitches, bordering 1,000 pitches. And am I going to let him train at a 1-8 while all these teams in our league and who we play are salivating, ready for somebody to jump out there with a 1-8 and wreck their world? That's why I want the game to be quicker. So right now, he's the baby under that faucet last night because I'm making his butt get quick to the plate. Because can you imagine here in 33 days when we kick this thing off and we got our first weekend that I got somebody 93, 94, turned down $1.5 million to delay his gratification in a professional baseball. If I'm not pitching that dude because he's 1-8 to the plate and he's not quick enough for the game of baseball, man, we got to keep him at first, right? We got to keep him at first. Because now, if you just let a guy have second base, I don't care how good your stuff is, the Texas leaguer beats you. The ground ball with eyes changes the scoreboard. And heaven forbid we want somebody to go from second to third base, especially with less than 2 outs because there's 7 more ways to score, right? At third than there are second. You got pass ball, wild pitch, sacrifice fly, ground ball. You got all these different ways, balk. Like 7 ways we sat there and really stirred up and tried to think about how many more ways. So you could go 50 drills, or you could just go this marquee drill that we do. I'll do it this way for guys on this side. Hold, relax, get them to breathe. When that catcher feels like he's established it well, he gives him a glove flash, and then we're getting a break time. We're getting height of the pitch. We can quantify that or see that, but holding the baseball. So if he gets to be 1-4 for a lefty, we try to make the right-handers a little bit quicker because their backs to first base. But lefties are seeing them. We can try to give them some different ammunition, but that's our marquee drill. That may be the best drill that I think that we actually do. Picks to first base, right-handers, I love to attack. We use 3 words in our program: attack, legacy, vision. So when we pick, we do a game with the stopwatch there. I don't use it on the catchers like I mentioned last night, but like for pitchers picking to first base, I want this in 1 second. Once the season starts, I'll never say anything else. Practice is for the coaches, games for the players. So I want everybody to get to an acceptable break time with the first drill. I want to lower their stuff. The second thing I'm doing, right-handers, I want you to be 1 second on a pick to first base. Because then at least the game will slow down for them instead of speed up for them. Left-handers, I want the same thing. And it can be from a slide step pick, or it can be from the step off. And Skip Burtman always used to say, don't step straight back to throw the step off pick. Step back towards shortstop, and that'll help you get your shoulders turned. Just little things like that you learn from the best that's ever been out there. Little bitty tips. That's attack. That puts the first word of our program into practice. Attack that pick to first. Because soon as somebody's got a little yips and a little scared and a little fear, and they lob it over there, then I can go, what are you doing? We attack. We attack. But you can't say we attack and you don't teach them how to. You can't tell somebody or call them over when you couldn't hit the water if you fell out of a boat. Dad, you have to prepare them because it's your fault. It's like the bunt. That's why we've done that the last 9 years to start every inning, is to have that ball beneath the bat. It's a difference maker. Whenever you feel prepared for something, that increases confidence. Confidence comes from skill acquisition, period. First time I could juggle 3 balls, I couldn't wait to go show that guy. As much as he irked me, I wanted to impress him, and I wanted his approval more than anybody on earth. When I could juggle those 3 balls, man, I thought I was a stud. Watch this. Or the pennies. You remember when you could stack the pennies up here and catch them? I got to go show somebody. We're trying to teach them how to juggle 3 balls, basically, where they can go show somebody. Because confidence comes from skill acquisition, acquiring skills. Here's a weird one. The next one is like, I don't know if it's vampire It's the front side. I get a lot of lazy, short front sides. One pro team that I've met with through the years, they really talk about dividing the body, pitcher's body, into 4 quadrants. Front leg, front side, back side. So, some things that's really hard to teach is throwing arm action, right? That's almost a no-no to get in there and start teaching and changing the natural organization of a pitcher. And the front foot, that's hard. That's really hard, the front foot. And when they're across their body, you want them open more. When they're right in line or open more, you want them to close off more on a breaking ball, or the breaking ball will break better. You're just chasing your tail. So these are tough teaches. The throwing arm, the front foot. Where I'm really spend some time with teaching guys before I have to get to some of those critical areas would be post foot, back foot in the ground for sure, to activate everything, get some work, and that glove. And I get so many gloves that are just low, short, not involved, no tennis serve, no man. David Price got a little bit of that. My legend is Sandy Koufax. The ball was right above his ankle, and his glove was right there. I mean, I can't even get there. I gave you the disclaimer about my knee. Front side, it's huge. So, I'm just fooling around. I'm like, I got to get the front side out of a couple of these guys. Their marquee drill wound up being, so if you're a left-hander, you're going to start with a drop step with your left foot. If you're a right-hander, you're going to start with a drop step on your right foot. Turn and throw. A couple of things, you want to be direction, because if they're just spinning in a circle, if they're doing everything in a circular motion, rotational, they won't be as linear. So I say backwards with the linear concept to try to keep them in line. Once you get turned, I want your chin to stay over the plate. A couple of things happen. From the vampire standpoint, it kind of encourages me to get my arm up a little bit. I don't know why. I don't have the answers. But this is something that I think has really helped our guys. Front side wants to get up a little bit more, right where I want it. To distort. I want us to get our front side, if we can, unless you're just a stud, everything's going great for you and I don't want to screw you up. I like distortion. I like the concept of them having to see this before they see that. I like the front side to get up because now it encourages the back side to get up. This is not encouraging anything. This is encouraging me to get up, strike and attack off a drive line close, not a roundhouse, but a jab. I like bar fighters. If you got any bar fighters about 17 years old, I love them. Not the bad ones, not the ones swinging like this. So second thing my dad taught me, I'll sprinkle in a couple of those. Bar fight's good because all you got to do is, they're going to come like this. All you got to do is step right to them and come right in tight. And if they're drunk like they probably are to be taking a roundhouse at you, it's only going to take one right on the chin, right up through them. And then you can walk out like a big dog, okay? Pitchers pitch this way. It's slow, it's around, it doesn't create depth, it doesn't create late movement. It's bad out of the hand, it's detected early, so we are trying to get on the drive line. Another thing this does is when we're pitching at second base, a lot of times our guys can start their delivery while they're looking at the guy. We're not trying to control the running game, we're attacking. It's absolutely over. And the only way to do that is me being able to start my pitch comfortably and be a command guy while I'm looking. That backwards drill is not looking initially, and then you're picking up the target. If you don't train the skill, then how do you have this high expectation? Because a ton of people can get that base stole on them when that head turns back around. That's when the vaulting happens. That's when a lot of stuff takes place. If you can get with the runner at second where you can pitch while you're looking at the guy, it's a skill. You've acquired a new skill. You've just learned how to juggle. You just added a fourth ball, or taking a bite out of the apple, or whatever it may be. All right, so I like that one. Front side encouragement, picking up the target. Pat drill. This was Ross Mitchell. This was a low velocity guy, 82, 83. He won more games than the 7 major leaguers he played with for 4 years. So he had 7 major leaguers. He won the most games in his career, more than all these boys that have went on to the big leagues. He couldn't get anybody out. We wound up just going with one pitch. We went to 4-seam, but he didn't have any spin or anything. And the other thing I'll say, Scott Sullivan told me, he's got 600 appearances in the big leagues. That's the whole concept of this name dropping, is he wound up telling me that the hitter tells you everything. Every now and then you'll get a baiter that'll try to make themselves look stupid on one, very few and far between. But in practice, most of the time, the hitter tells you everything. And still, you're trying to balance this analytics with old school baseball and put them all together. That's the sweet spot, in my opinion. The hitter's feedback's what you need. So Ross Mitchell taught me something. He wouldn't go talk to all these guys that were going to wind up being in the big leaguers, all those big arms. He's like, I'll never be able to do what those guys do. And I just started watching. I'm like, Ross, what are you doing? He's like, I'm talking to the hitters. Make your pitchers go talk to your hitters. And you got to do it safely. But I'm telling you, I think my guys are so special that we try not to waste bullets. When they get loose and they get ready, I want somebody swinging at that instead of big fat pitching coach like me going like, man, that was pretty. That was awesome. We work on that changeup for 2 months, and then we get out there and 6 of the first 8 shopping in all our gaps on the field. I could have got there a lot quicker instead of wasting those 2 months instead of like, man, that looks awesome. But I was seeing if the sting was taken out of the swing, if it was popped right up, if it was rolled over, or if it was driven. And we could have made adjustments a lot quicker, more efficient, and got to where we were wanting to. Answers, real answers. I got guys that can spin the fire out of the ball. They're great chart guys. Just because you spin it don't mean you're great. But we started watching, and the 4-seam wouldn't work. The 2-seam wouldn't work. We went to like a 1-seam or 0-seam fastball. Nobody else had it. But it wasn't in all the computers of these hitters either. We found really quick that they were walking back to the dugout going like, I don't know what he's throwing. It's a changeup, but I think it's his fastball. It was just at that non-hitting, take the sting out of the swing. His last year, we go 10 SEC weekends. He threw 4 CGs, and he averaged 101 pitches per game in those complete games. And he averaged throwing 4 off-speed pitches a game. And he couldn't strike anybody out, but that was part of his identity, what I'm talking about later on. He just threw his little 1-seam fastball. And you know, like when Jeter would go to the hole and he would pat and throw, kind of set his hands and feet. So we just started patting. We just started as he was lifting up when he wanted to. He would just crash his cymbals, pat, just like Jeter does on the backhand. Just like you see a ton of pitchers do. Peyton Manning. Because there was a time I'm coaching, anybody that patted a glove, anybody that did anything, quit patting! Don't you be patting out here! And then the best in the world are patting their asses off. And I'm like, who's right, who's wrong? Pat away. So we go with the pitch that the hitters aren't used to, and we start patting to create sync of the hands and feet, and we applied it to pitching. And there's a lot of pitchers you watch. The relievers even more. So it's nothing fancy. Again, nothing you hear is earth-shattering if you need to go do something else. But it's just a pat. It was consistency. And I believe consistency compounds. I believe consistency compounds. Bruce Lee says, I'm not scared of the man that's done 10,000 kicks one time. I'm scared of the man that's done one kick 10,000 times. He'll knock the fly off your hat. But you got to find who you are. That's the whole premise of this afternoon is identity. Tom Glavine, his son's in our program. So Tom says about every 4 years, how do you pitch 21 years? Well, about every 4 years, you got to change everything you do. So if you're married to mechanics and you're married to your style of pitching, and you got a great, great arm, that might get you about 3.5 years in the big leagues. But we're talking about Hall of Fame stuff. We're talking about 21 years. We're talking about facing the same guys over and over. I got to change everything you do. And I'm in Double A. And my curveball is lousy. It was lousy for my 21 years in the big leagues, and I threw it. It would take a while for it to get there, and it was big and loopy. And I'm sitting there with a fastball, and I'm like the worst. I had the worst stuff on my Double A staff, and I'm like, how am I going to make the big leagues? So here I am, because I'm a really smart guy. What'd you do, Tom? Well, I quit throwing fastballs. I started throwing sinkers, and I threw 3 changeups. I threw a changeup that went that way, I threw a split finger, and I threw a changeup that went that way. Because my average curveball and my average fastball was not going to make me a major league pitcher. That's what the best in the world are doing. That's what the top guys are doing. Roy Oswalt. It's the worst mechanics I've ever seen. In Mississippi, I scouted him a little bit, and he was close to Mississippi State, so he's a friend. He's a redneck, too. He would pitch on top of the mounds. The mounds in Mississippi are so bad. Don't y'all be complaining. But they're so bad in Mississippi, he would pitch off the top of the mounds. Because this was like 2 feet hole. And that's how he learned how to pitch, because the fields were so bad. So, you can imagine, he gets to pro ball. He's at his first spring training. Nobody's ever done anything that tell him, hey, you need to be at the park here, you're pitching this game. That's what his coaches were doing for him his whole life, is making sure Roy Oswalt showed up at the ballpark. So then they got to change everything when he gets to pro ball. So he's laying there in spring training, he's looking up at the ceiling in his bed, and he says, God, I promise if my arm's not broken, my career's not over, that I'll never listen to another coach again. So he made his peace with God that night on his career, and he made $104 million after that. Because he never let anybody take that creativity. He said, Marm, it never hurt till that point, till they tried to change me. And that's what we got to figure out as coaches. Like, when my guys leave, like Casey Mize, I've seen him for 2 hours since he was the first pick of the draft. I'm not going with him. My value as a coach is not for me to continue to be his dictator for his whole life. It's for him not to need a coach. A great coach teaches somebody how not to need one. And then Roy Oswalt, you know, he faced Pujols because he was at Houston and with the Cardinals, and, you know, Pujols hit 4 home runs his first 8 at-bats. He faced him. They were in the same division now. Everything's changed now. And he's talking to our pitching staff at Mississippi State. And he said, you know what I did? Because that sucker had 3 singles the next 50 at-bats off me. Because he's in my division, and he's taking away my paycheck from my family, Pujols, because I can get the rest of them out, and I couldn't get Pujols out. And he said, I started falling in the first base dugout as hard as I could. And I was like, oh, my Lord, he just told my pitchers to start flying open. What is he doing? And I said, why did you do that, Roy? Not knowing what was about to land next. And he said it made the ball act different. We're doing everything we can to try to have this perfect delivery, which is impossible anyway. Nobody can ever repeat the same delivery twice anyway, because I know. I know they've been doing biomechanical analysis at ASMI Clinic in Birmingham, Alabama for the last 28 years under the direction of James Andrews. And I know every one of those guys that's been there has never repeated it twice. Autograph your name 50 times. Turn your paper over, autograph your name 50 times. You can't even do that the same way twice, ever. So how are you going to get up on a mound 60 feet 6 inches with an inch of fall every foot and have that body organized from your toes to ball release off the fingertips? Never do it the same way. But his creativity, because he didn't let anybody impede and make him try to connect dots, he started falling off in the first base dugout. That created the axis he wanted. That changed the whole approach of Pujols. It made him have to go steep. It gave him a different pitch. Hitters tell you everything. If you're not getting them out, change it. Another reason why I get paid 1 penny by the 50-cent string is my mom. If I take my mom and I give her a bat, my mom's still doing great, by the way. But if I do this and I give her a bat, here's why I like the string and why I went with it and I sold out to it, is I took my mom right there I told her to get in a position and I told her to go slow motion to contact on that ball right there. It flattened my mom's bat. That's what that no-throw zone does. And you want to be below it or above it. And I understand when you're 12, you probably just want to get it over the plate. I got it. But if you train this, you have taken that 250 batting average bad guy in their lineup, one of the last 3 guys in the lineup, and you flatten his bat for him. Pujols at one time, till his legs went, he could get low and take this thing flat. Because what happens with most of us, if we ever pull off or anything, this starts happening. It's harder to keep the bat flat. And the best in the world, that sophisticated game of limbo from when you're 8 and it keeps getting lower and lower and lower, they can start getting flat down here. Trout took over that concept. You could go to the floor and he could still get flat with it. As soon as his legs go, it'll be a new guy. When that lower half can't set up and get in that position again, it'll be somebody else. But that's why. If my mama's bat gets flat on this pitch in the no-throw zone, we need to pitch somewhere else with precision. So that's why we started doing the string, for sure. Was a huge piece to that. And when you're not married to mechanics, you know how our guys improve their mechanics? Come work with us for 3 or 4 years. And don't talk about it. And let me just get to 1 or 2 points. The 1 or 2 points of mechanics from the biggest need to try to get a domino to fall is how we're finding more success. Find the 1 drill, not the 10 drills. All right, I got about 8 minutes. What's some good stuff in here? I showed Matt Hobbs' drill. Randy Tomlin showed me this the first time I've ever heard of it. Pitched for the Pirates, was at Liberty, played in the big leagues. I was at Georgia, and I had this young, good arm boy, and as soon as his front foot would lift, he would just rush. And he would just throw the elephant ass, the hind stinky, over and over and over, because his first move was to just run off and leave his arm. So Randy started getting me to do this. And he said, you know, just let him get all the way to the top before he goes to the plate. Matt Hobbs on the drill last night, when I met with him, USA Baseball, he said, hook it behind and then have them turn their hips and go. Hook them over the knee in front. Have them engage. I call it 2 inches. You know, we had the tall and fall. We went through that phase. That was the phase that I came through and pitched through. And then I watched Tim Hudson and Roy Oswalt and those guys that I'm closer to, and they're dropping and driving. And Seaver, and you're watching some of these most athletic guys. We're getting back to some of those teachers with a core velocity belt, which I think is really a directional enhancer, but I probably sells more if you call it a velocity belt and Lance is a dear friend. But this is a great drill for the guys that are just rushing to the plate. Get them here, 2 inches, so I'm going to sit in the ground. We got them big light poles like you do at all the fields, and I go like, how far do you think How far you think that light pole's in that ground? You think it's just sitting right there on the ground? It's in there about 10 inches? Oh, no, sir. No, sir, I've seen them holes. That thing goes way down in there. You're right. You're so smart. I hope you get a degree. You're going to hurt my APR. So I'm like, yeah, that thing's probably 20, 30 feet in the ground. It's way down there. So I want you to just feel it. You start here, and then I want you to feel that 10, 15 feet in the ground before you pitch. If you can just get them to feel it one time, some things will happen. If you can just get them to feel it one time, feel that. Get on top and start creating some angle. Let that arm get on time instead of always behind. If they can just feel it one time. Chad Bradford said, hey, I just had one drill. And he was the guy that was way down here. And he would throw 4 seams from down here because it would go up and back down. Most guys are drop-down guys that are right in here at what we'd call sidearm. They throw 2 seamers because they still can get on top of the ball enough to create sink. So if you're ever taking a kid way on down there, make them throw a 4-seam because now you want this and that. And if you got a guy like Chad Bradford, you want to throw your curveballs upside down. You want them to raise, right? And if he's your best pitcher, then you want everybody to have white shoes, and you want to put the rosin bag in the white shoes and get everything you want to white out. That's why he liked pitching for the A's, because they wore white shoes. And he would just get white ball, white shoes, white rosin till the umpires would kick it out. I love talking to these guys. It's not name dropping for me to try to come impress you who I've hung out with. It's name dropping because you don't think you get anything from those guys because they don't got 50 things to sell. They got the 1 or 2 things. And all Chad Bradford does, same thing. He was a rush guy, just like I was talking about in the last drill. But he would say, stay back, stay closed. And he would do that, explode. But you can do it with anybody. It's just a great rushing drill. And you're storing energy on that back thigh, more on the inside part. You know, if I'm a linebacker, if I'm playing basketball, then I'm 50-50 because I'm on the flat ground. We always call center a little bit reverse to the back side because we're on that slope. So whenever you get a pitcher here and you get him, get 50-50, and this foot's here and that foot's down there, your center should be a little bit reversed. You should be back just a little bit, like I'm ready to do one of my kicks, my Bruce Lee kicks. And you just want to feel that a couple of times before you throw. Stay back, stay closed, explode. And once I get my timing, then I can just move ahead and stay there, hopefully. I got 2 minutes left. What else I got? I never get through anything I want. If you're working at a higher level, Hal Baird's the all-time winningest coach at Auburn. If you want to know your best pitchers, keep up with 3-ball counts and who gets the most swing and misses. That's your best pitcher. Who has the least amount of 3-ball counts and who gets the most swing and misses. If you can't buy Rhapsody or TrackMan and all that, your best pitcher is who avoids 3 balls and gets the most swing and misses naturally. Because that's all the analytics and stuff's trying to figure out is who's getting the most swing and misses, or who's throwing the most strikes, and finding a funny way, just practical, really good. I go to the mound. I went to the mound and embarrassed myself. We've all had an embarrassing mound visit if you're a pitching coach. Lance Wheeler says, just tell them to lower their eyes. If you want to change your mechanics, bring that guy in. Bring the next guy in. And I know that sometimes the guy on the mound is like 800 times better than the guy down there. But if you go to mechanics, it's Russian roulette. You might can graze on that one thing that you really work on that sets him, but he already knows it and he's already tried it. Just tell him to lower his eyes. I don't need you to be a hero. I just need you to lower your eyes right here and focus in on that and compete for me. If you give them crutches, they'll hop around on them. If you give them the crutch of the mechanic, because I failed at that, for my first 10 years, guys would come in after giving up 2 runs, come to my dugout, and they would say, is it my glove? Is it my foot? I would have fired me if I knew. And I thought I was helping. Yeah, you know what? I think that glove's just a little bit. You know, when we're getting a ground force reaction, it looks like that glove's already left you midline and it's already trailing behind you. And man, so I love all these drills that are like prescriptions. It's not what you throw, but where you throw it. Jason Mott taught me that. That's our pitch calling strategies. Derek Johnson, was with the Brewers this year. He had one of my boys, Brandon Woodruff, who hit that big home run off Kershaw. He took a dozen baseballs and you cut up half of them. You take the seams off half of them. It's a great breaking ball drill for whenever you're starting with guys. So you take the seams off 6 balls, and then you take the 6 unaffected balls, you take that seam and you add it on there. You super glue it, or you double the seams. Make them even higher. It's a great entry-level breaking ball drill because now they feel that ledge, right? And once you can get a ball to go down out of your hand, woo, then you got something going. But until you feel it, it's kind of hard. So double the height of that seam, feel that ledge, pull down on that thing, feel it right one time, and then you can go back to an average ball. But that's a great breaking ball trainer. And it really picks up our intent, and they can feel that ledge, and then you can go back to a regular baseball. And he just moved on to Cincinnati, and that was one of the best things I'd picked up at a clinic the last couple of years. I know I got to stop. I'll pick up on some stuff I missed later on. Appreciate you, boys.